So, crunch fixture tomorrow, quarterfinals of the EFL Cup, semi-finals place at stake. What's your thoughts on getting through to the next round against us?
Well, first of all, I think it's the first time we've had a home tie in the quarterfinals of what was the League Cup, now the EFL Cup. So that should be extremely exciting. I think we lost at Manchester City either last year or the year before in the quarterfinal, but it's the first time we've had a quarterfinal at home. So it's a huge game really for us, and a relative local derby with Newcastle United. Unfortunately, the match will be low-key in the eyes of many Hull City fans because we're in the middle of a huge political upheaval because of the unpopularity of our current owners. So there will be thousands boycott the game. And whilst that's totally understandable, and I totally support that, it's a bit of a tragedy.
Do you think this... I was going to interrupt you there. Sorry, I was going to say, do you think this upheaval is the reason why, there's such a low attendance at this game? Because I've seen that there's going to be only a certain amount of fans going to this game from your end. Do you think that's the reason why?
Yeah, quite definitely. The prices of the tickets have actually been brought down in an attempt by the club to actually get people to attend. But I'll be surprised if there's more than 15 or 17,000 there, maybe even less. And that is because we've got a situation at the club where our owners, the Alam family, since they applied to change our name to Hull Tigers 2-3 years ago and were refused by the FA, they basically just played mischief and taken their anger out on the fans. And this is built up through a number of incidents over the last 2 or 3 years. They make a lot of contacts through the Premier League. They have a very successful marine engineering business. And the football, they lost interest in a long time ago. But, what's a few million to them? They're very rich people. They've got assets of 300, 400 million. So they're not really too worried. They're just enjoying the mischief. And they've never forgiven the fans, and this is part of the payback. Now, how long this payback will take, I don't know. But sadly, it means a ridiculously low attendance tomorrow. I can assure you that had we been in even League One with different owners, then there would probably have been a sellout tomorrow night at the KCOM. So the irony is we are in our most successful period ever as Hull City. We're playing a home quarter-final in the League Cup against a well-supported Newcastle United, and the place may well be full of empty seats. So that's heartbreaking, really, but that's football in 2016.
I know. I was very surprised about the attendance figures when I heard them. And do you think that's really taken a hit on the football?
What you mean?
The whole behind the scenes, what's going on with the Allen family. Do you think it's taken effect on what's going on the pitch? This is the reason why you're in the position you're in?
That's a difficult one. I think at the start of the season, everyone was very fresh. The squad was very fresh. And the start of the new season, everyone had forgotten about it. Because there was a rumour that we would be taken over and bought in July or August. But because we've now reached November, and the whole possibility of a sale of the club has been hanging around for so long, I think slowly but surely it has started to affect the performances on the pitch. Normally footballers are very easygoing. They don't worry too much about events off the pitch. And this is where I need to emphasise, this has been going on for 2 to 3 years. And inevitably, it does start to impact on the players, and it certainly has done this year. Because obviously the Premier League is tough for us. It was going to be tough even without off-pitch mayhem. But with this mess off the pitch, it's made it even tougher for us.
And do you know the reason why Steve Bruce has left the club? Because that still baffles me to this day, why he would leave when you've just got a team promoted into the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, he's mentioned it in passing in various interviews, but it's pretty clear to many Hull City supporters exactly why he left the club. Nobody can blame him for leaving the club. He stuck around for as long as possible. He was a man of great integrity, a very good manager, but everyone has only limited patience. And our owners, and particularly the younger owner, Mr. Ehab Alam, messed him around something rotten. And it was clear specifically, and Bruce has said this, that whilst Alam, the older, was happy to allow Bruce to make most of the team decisions and purchase decisions himself and have control of all on-pitch matters, Ehab Alam was starting to get more and more interest and making more and more of the decisions and having more of influence on the purchase of new players and the playing side of it. Now, set that alongside a situation where Steve Bruce wasn't even sure if the club was going to still belong to the Alams at the start of the season, because the constant rumours of a takeover, it was just the final straw for him. And he left with everybody's blessing in Hull. He was our most successful manager. We wish him all the best at Villa. And I think any manager would have left in his situation eventually. He did very well to last as long as he did.
Fair play to you. So, what's your thoughts on the two former Hull City players in our squad now, Isaac Hayden and Mo Diarmi? Do they come back to the KC with your blessing or not?
Yeah, it's always a tricky one, isn't it? They're bound to get a nice round of applause to start with and then get booed, as tends to happen at games. First of all, take them in turn. Hayden was a player who was a bit in and out, as you would expect from a young player, but did seem to make progress through the time he was with us. And I think he will turn into a very good player. I think he's taken a few steps forward with Newcastle. And, I see him as a player on the upgrade, if you see what I mean. Mo Diarmi is a bit of an enigma, really, I would say, in that he has some great games and he has some very ordinary games. I think I saw in one of your recent matches, it might have been the League Cup game where he scored, he also missed an absolute sitter.
Yeah, that just sums him up altogether.
Yeah, it does completely. He is like that. He can be wonderful. He has a great pass on him, a great assist on him, and he can show great ball control and put a perfect pass through. But other times he can look like an absolute donkey and he can fade out of games. But he scored, you'll have seen a tremendous goal for us at Wembley, which will forever live in our history, given that we have a very modest history and limited success, even though we've been very successful at Wembley. So he'll always be remembered fondly for that. And I don't think he'll get any ferocious boos or anything like that. I think I saw an article today in the Newcastle Chronicle, I think it was, where basically Diarmi was saying he'd left to go to a bigger club and, he was happy to move to Newcastle, leaving Hull in the summer. But, I think we all know he left because he got, I would think, an offer of more money, which is absolutely fair enough. And he's clearly confident that Newcastle will go up this season and Hull will obviously be in the relegation zone. Although I think he did say in the same article that he thought Hull would manage to stay up. But, I think he'll get a fairly good reception. And then, depending on how many fouls he commits, he may get a few a little bit of a tongue lashing if he commits a few fouls. But I would not be surprised to see him score tomorrow.
Well, I was speaking to him personally today through my job at that same press conference, and he does give you guys, he does wish you guys all the best, especially under your new management and all the rest of it. He did talk about his fun times at Hull City as well. So it's not like he was belittling you guys or anything like that. So he does wish you guys all the best.
That's right. I did see in the article that I mentioned that he said some very nice things about our club. And there's no doubt for him it was an important sort of stage of his development because he, to some extent, re-established his reputation with us because he did score some absolutely fantastic goals. The thing about him is that, although he can look a little bit slow on occasions, he does score some superb goals and put through some really good passes. And he has a real touch of class about him. And if Newcastle can get the best out of him, he's a great player. But it's interesting to me that he's not been playing regularly, has he, for your first team in league matches?
No, he's had to come in and he's had to compete. We've got a player called, obviously, Ayoze Perez, who plays pretty much in the same role. So it's between them two who plays in behind the striker. I do expect him to play against you guys, obviously, in the cup game, obviously against his former club. But he has found it quite difficult to get into the team. Your assessment has been spot on with him. He has been very hot and cold for us. And he even said himself that he's I think he come out with saying that he's been asleep since he's got here and he needs to wake up. That was his assessment of his own career. So pretty much sums it up, really.
Yeah, I think perhaps, as well, I mean, obviously Newcastle do have a very good squad, don't they? A fairly deep squad. So it's not like he's sort of needed and gets in the side because of shortage of numbers or anything like that. So he is having to fight for his place. And I guess tomorrow is an opportunity for him to sort of remind the supporters and the manager and everyone connected with the club that, he is a top-class player, which he is, but he's as you've hinted, he's a perfect example of how he's really good on his day. He just needs to find that consistency to be a top-class player.
Exactly that. So, moving on to tomorrow, what's your thoughts on the game? How's it going to go? Who's your star players and how are you going to expose our weaknesses tomorrow?
Well, first of all, I think we'll play a fairly strong side. It's ironic that we're the Premier League side, but because of injuries and a relatively small squad, we will be probably playing the majority of the team, or a lot of the team, that finished the game against West Brom at home on Saturday, which we drew 1-1. The strength of the side, I would say, is that we do defend well. The weakness is that when we concede, we sometimes look like that's it. A 1-0 to us is fantastic and we think we've won. But if we go down 1-0, sometimes we're not so sort of good at fighting back, although we did fight back and win a game against Southampton recently. In the League Cup, I think it'll be slightly different because despite the fact that you're going well in the Championship, I think as a Premier League side at home, the crowd will push us to attack rather more. The problem for us is that we're very low on strikers, numerically even. We've Abel Hernandez, who's injured, and I don't think will play tomorrow. So probably up front we've got Mbakani and Diamandi. Mbakani has not scored for us yet, I don't think, and Diamandi has got just the one goal this season, although Diamandi played very well on Saturday. So it's the shortage of goals from the front players that's the big worry. We've been normally getting our goals from defenders like Michael Dawson, I think, who've got 3 in the last 4 or 5 games. So the strength is our defensive organisation. I think the weakness is that whilst we have reasonably good strikers, they're not in form. Mbakani hasn't been playing regularly. He hasn't scored for us yet. Diamandi has just finished 3-game suspension, so he's not quite match fit, I wouldn't say. And we really do need to get the ball forward and create some chances for these lads, because we've been very, very defensive in recent games, and I think you can sort of accept that when you're struggling in the Premier League, but in a cup quarter-final at home, I think we have to go for it a bit more.
So, can I push you for a scoreline? What's your predictions?
Yeah, this isn't sitting on the fence. I think it'll be tight, and I think it may go to... Is there extra time? I think it'll go to extra time, and one of the two clubs will pinch it in extra time, and I'm going to say we're going to pinch it in extra time.
Whoa, I like that.
Yeah. I think it'd be a very, obviously there'll be a lot of noise there, even if it is a relatively small crowd. The Newcastle fans will be vocal as ever. I think it'll be cut and thrust sort of game, lots of commitment. I think, Newcastle are going well, but did lose at home on Saturday. I think it'll be really close. And as I say, I think it will go to extra time. And I'm just hoping we just pinch it.
I'm going to go for the same, obviously, in our favour. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm expecting it to either go all the way to penalties or just very close in 90 minutes. But I'm obviously going to go with Newcastle. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get the result. Obviously, you're going to think the same. But yeah, it's good catching up with you, and it'll be good to catch up with you afterwards just to kind of review it and see where it went right or wrong in whoever's favour.
Of course, yeah, be quite happy to have a word after the game later in the week or whatever.
Yeah.
I think, we could be wrong. One side could get a goal and win 2 or 3-0, but I just think the sides are fairly well matched, actually. I think Newcastle are good and are dominating the Championship, but they're not infallible, and they do throw in the odd bad performance, and you will have some second-string players playing, whereas we are at home, and I think we will really go for it. And, as you know, the Premier League is strong, and we haven't got 11 points in the Premier League. We're not that bad. And I think it will be a very even contest.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for taking time out to speak to me. That's brilliant.
Been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'll take care. See you later, mate.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.